We're coming at you so fast you can't even see us. We're not even here. We're already gone. We're talking about The Flash. Some are so fun, you guys. There are so many big movies and they're all multiverses. This is just one of them. So if you've not subscribed to us in this universe or any other, we would love to see you. We are even more attractive in different multiverses. And more thoughtful. But we'd love to see you this summer. We have all the big blockbusters, of course. This is an early review of The Flash. It does not come out until the 16th, but we also have all kinds of cool little indies for you all summer long too. So please hit the button if you have not already. Alonzo, please, in this spoiler-free review of The Flash, what can you tell us?
Oh my God! Flash!
Hi.
I love you!
Thank you.
Passing you into Mr. Wayne.
No, please don't.
Ezra Miller returns as Barry Allen, still working with the Justice League, although, as the character says, he feels like the janitor of the Justice League because he's always got to do the cleanup work while Batman's off chasing the main bad guys. So yeah, the film opens with a really great sequence in Gotham City involving a collapsing hospital and maternity ward, which I thought was hilarious and audacious and a lot of fun and really great. And then we get into the actual movie, which involves the Flash realizing that he can run so fast that he can travel through time. And he is tempted by the notion that he might be able to prevent the murder of his mother, and which would also prevent the incarceration of his father, who was falsely convicted of the crime. Batman, once again played by Ben Affleck, who knows a thing or two about dead parents, says, maybe don't, but he does it anyway. Oopsie. And through a series of complications, winds up in a parallel universe in which he encounters his younger self, and wackiness and Michael Keaton as Batman ensues. I love the beginning of this movie and I love the end of this movie, and the middle did not appeal to me at all.
What's wrong with the middle of it?
I mean, it's because it starts out with, like I said, the hospital rescue thing is fun. It's wild.
Fun.
It's just brilliantly put together. The ending hits on the emotional beats of this movie and of this character in a way that Miller handles really well, and makes me think if the whole movie could have been like fun, hilarious adventure and also emotional stakes, then we have a film here. What we have instead is a cavalcade of fan service, like an insane amount of not just you read all the comics, but like, all the behind the scenes stuff, inside references, and aren't you cool for knowing it, that just gets numbing after a while. That's all this movie has to offer. Like, yes, Michael Keaton's playing Batman again. Hoo-ha. And the idea that Michael Keaton is playing Batman again and repeating the catchphrases and showing the car and all that stuff is meant to be enough. And it's not all that interesting in and of itself. This film just exists to pat you on the back for knowing stuff about DC Comics media. And that is really tiresome. And it's a thing that has gotten worse and worse over the course of superhero media, superhero movies certainly having a stranglehold on the culture. And so I don't know if this movie is just that much more egregious, or if I've just hit my own personal satiation point with this stuff. But the fact that there are those parts that I think are so great, it just put the rest of the film into such relief of like, oh, this again, and the CG starts out really kind of cool and clean, and by the end just becomes messy and muddled. And there's some stuff where they really hit the nostalgia buttons that include some terrible CG. Kiersey Clemons plays Iris West, and we barely get to know her or who she is, but the fact that she's Iris West is supposed to just imbue her with all of this sort of built-in backstory and stuff that's supposed to matter. So yeah, I found this really frustrating.
And you know what's funny is that we just raved about Across the Spider-Verse last week, right? And so I think does this movie no favors at all to come out so soon afterward, because, and I realize this sounds inherently contradictory, but like all the stuff that Spider-Verse does so well with giving you all the various incarnations of Spider-Man and all the different universes and all the different possibilities, like that's done in a way that is so sharp and smart and clever, and not just for the sake of drawing attention to itself. It's like,
Sure.
it's context. It's who Miles is and who he's becoming, and it matters substantively. And here it's like, Michael Keaton's here and he's saying the line that you know. And that is so frustrating because Michael Keaton's my Batman. Like, I'm thrilled to see him back in that suit again. I would love a whole movie of like, what's that character up to now? Because they sort of don't really tell you. Like, you get like this faintest glimmer of an idea,
Right.
but mostly he's just there as like a cog in this machinery and for, as you say, fan service. Yeah, Kiersey Clemons does not get to do a whole lot either. But I did think Ezra Miller was really good in this because they're playing two distinct versions of this character, Barry in two different timelines. And the visual effects for that are totally seamless. That seems like a thing that's very easy to do now. To have someone playing opposite themselves. That just seems like the thing that was so cool when Sam Rockwell did it in Moon.
Right.
He's fighting himself.
Or like Back to the Future 2, and it was really, now I think it's super easy to do.
It's so well done. But everything else looks like total crap. Like, the thing you're talking about is such a mishmash of like colors and swirling stuff and dust and light, and like it just looks blurry and like distracting, and it's so long, it just keeps going and going, and it's so repetitive. It's like, oh my God, we have to see all this stuff again.
Here's, I think, a key difference between the two movies. Okay. You can watch Across the Spider-Verse having never read a Spider-Man comic, and you'll totally get what's going on.
Yeah.
And yes, are there Easter eggs for people who have read the comics? Sure, absolutely. You'll have seen some of these characters before. You'll get these passing references to like the 1960s TV show or whatever, but like they zip by and they don't rely solely on the familiarity of it. Whereas if you have not watched all the movies and read a bunch of comics and also sort of kept up with like your industry insider gossip, you're not going to get the point of why a lot of the stuff is in the Flash. And it is there just for you to be Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme.
Yeah. Speaking of Back to the Future, there is a running bit with Back to the Future here that like is funny the first time they say it.
Yeah.
And then they keep hammering it.
And they wear it out.
Over and over and over again. Yes, there is a mid-credit sequence. There are many reveals that made the fans at our screening go apeshit.
Yeah. Seriously, they went crazy when they showed the car for the first time. I was like, okay, that's what we're dealing with here. If you're the kind of person who, when you see the Batmobile come back, goes, woo, then this is maybe your movie. But if not, it might not be.
I want to say also, I feel like you and I are reviewing this, or at least we're trying to review this as a film in terms of its merits alone, right? I know there's been a lot of behind the scenes stuff with Ezra Miller and legal troubles they've had. And, they have been candid about seeking help for mental illness. The marketing of this film is kind of tricky because they can't do the kinds of like multi-city, multi-continent premieres that they might. The press situation's tricky. Everyone wants to talk around it. I feel like you and I are indeed looking at this. I tried at least to look at this from a perspective of like, I need to meet this work of art and see what it's trying to do and is it effective.
Exactly.
And they are really good in this. They are really subtle and funny, and that timing is always great. And as you say, that first sequence with the big set piece at the beginning is a great example of like why the Speed Force can be fun.
Yeah.
Right. In the details and the subtle tweaks and like the sort of wish fulfillment of like, oh, I wish I could go back and do that. I wish I could go and, grab that thing, fix that thing, get another crack at it. But instead of ultimately, it just becomes like the same thing over and over again in a way that feels repetitive and just dull.
Yeah, I walked into this thinking that if I was going to have an issue with this movie, it was going to be the Ezra Miller of it all, given the last couple of years and all the stuff that's been happening. And then it turns out, no, they're the best thing in the movie, and the movie is the problem.
Yeah. So what's your number then?
I give it like a 4.5. I think there are some, like I said, there's a couple sequences that really land. There are some fun ideas along the way, and I like that central performance. But otherwise, this just felt like a new high or low of fan service that I just found like too much.
I will say 5. Also got to shout out Maribel Verdú.
Yes.
From Y Tu Mamá También. Always good. Lovely to see her. She's got a lovely presence here. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So The Flash comes out on the 16th. Are you psyched about it? Will you see it? Let us know.